Picture this. A 13-year-old posts a video on a Friday night, spent 40 minutes filming it, rewrote the caption 3 times, hit post, then watched the screen. 15 minutes, 30, an hour, 2 likes. By Saturday morning, he's deleted it, told nobody. Went downstairs for breakfast and said everything was fine. That moment, invisible, unrecorded, happening in bedrooms across the country every single night, is what this is about. 1 in 12 teenagers reported feeling hopeless most of the time in 2012. By 2019, 1 in 3. Same age, same country, 7 years. If you're a parent watching this, this is about your child. If you are that kid, this is about you. Gen Z. Born 1997 to 2012. The oldest were 10 when the iPhone launched. The youngest were in kindergarten when Instagram already existed. First generation in human history to grow up with an audience. Every generation before them had one thing Gen Z never got: the ability to be lost, confused, and awkward without a record. A bad day at school used to end at the front door. You walked in, dropped your backpack, and it was over. Now picture that same kid at 11 p.m. in their bedroom. The phone buzzes, a comment, a screenshot, a meme with their face. The hallway followed them home, and it never fully stops. Here's what most people don't understand about a teenage brain. Between 10 and 25, the brain is still being built, still deciding what matters, what to fear, what's worth remembering. It's sensitive by design, because that's how humans learn to survive. Now imagine that system, already running hot, suddenly connected to a feed that never turns off. A researcher at UCLA put teenagers in brain scanners and found something that stopped the entire team cold. Being left out online activated the same parts of the brain as physical pain, not as a metaphor. On a scan, every generation dealt with rejection. What changed was the scale. The audience went from 30 kids in a hallway to hundreds of strangers with a comment section, and it never stopped. Not at dinner, not at 11 p.m., not ever. That's not weakness. That's a brain doing exactly what it was built to do, in a place it was never built for. The platforms knew. They weren't built to connect people. They were built to keep people watching. Every like, every notification, designed by people who understood how the brain works better than most doctors. The same reward loop used in slot machines, except the slot machine fits in a pocket, and it was handed to children at age 10. Internal research leaked in 2021 showed that one of the largest platforms knew their product made things worse for teenage users. They published nothing. They changed nothing. They kept it running. This wasn't a side effect. This was the product. But here's where it gets deeper, because it's not just about what they saw. It's about who they became while watching. Think about that kid filming the video again. They're not just living their life. They're watching themselves live it. 2 versions running at the same time. The one doing things, and the one calculating how those things look. That split sounds small. Over months, over years, it changes everything. How they talk, how they make decisions, whether they feel like they're fundamentally okay. The years between 12 and 18 are when a person figures out who they are. For every generation before Gen Z, that process happened in real life, through real friendships, real mistakes, real moments nobody recorded. For Gen Z, it happened inside a system with one rule. The version of you that gets likes is the version worth being. And then, right when everything was already at its limit. 2020. The one thing that actually resets a stressed brain, being physically around other people, disappeared completely. No school, no friends, no last game, no graduation, no first night somewhere new. Every generation before this one went through hard things together. In the same room. Gen Z went through it alone. In a bedroom. On a screen. Recent data found that Gen Z carries the worst mental health numbers of any living generation. Over half report symptoms of anxiety, serious enough to affect daily functioning. Not a mood, not a phase, a pattern across the majority of an entire generation. Most people hear that and say, soft generation. Too much screen time. Just put the phone down. We turned out fine. Here's why that's wrong. No previous generation had their sense of self built inside an algorithm. No previous generation faced public rejection at scale every single day, starting at age 10, with a permanent record. That's not normal pressure. That's a completely different situation. But here's what that same data also shows. And this part matters. Gen Z is the most emotionally literate generation in history. They named what was happening to them before the research caught up. They built communities around honesty, around mental health, around dropping the performance, often in the same apps that caused the damage. They found each other anyway. That's not soft. That's actually remarkable. So, what actually helps? For parents, one thing matters more than any app blocker or screen time limit. One adult who doesn't look away. Not someone who fixes everything. Someone who sits with the hard stuff and stays. Research is consistent on this. One stable adult who doesn't flinch is the single biggest predictor of whether a young person makes it through a difficult period. Not, just put the phone down. Not, you'll be fine. This. What you're carrying is real. I'm not going anywhere. That sentence, said consistently over months, changes outcomes. Not as a theory, in the data. For the kids, one real experience per week with no audience, something physical, something that exists whether or not anyone sees it. A sport, a walk, cooking something, building something. Not for content, just for you. Here's why this works. The brain learns safety through repeated moments where nothing bad happened. A walk where nobody watched. A meal that came out ugly. A conversation that didn't get recorded. The brain files those moments away. This was real. I was okay. Over time, that stack of quiet moments starts to outweigh the noise. You don't need to delete everything. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need one thing per week that belongs only to you. And there's something worth saying directly to anyone in Gen Z watching this. You grew up as the test generation for the most powerful attention technology ever built, before anyone understood what it would do. That wasn't fair. You didn't get to opt out. And the fact that so many of you are still here, still talking about it, still trying to figure out who you actually are underneath the performance, that matters more than the algorithm ever will. That kid at 11 p.m., earbuds in, phone in hand, watching the screen, is still figuring it out. So the parent is on the other side of the wall. If this made you think of someone, send it to them. One person, one conversation. That's where it starts.